This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Stick around to the end of the video to see a special offer they're making available through my channel.
All right, let's go live to Elmo with the weather report. Kentucky Route Zero must objectively be called a video game, but if we were better at naming things, we would call it something else. It's played on game consoles like the Sony PlayStation 4, the Microsoft Xbox One, the Nintendo Switch, and on personal computers. It can be played with a control or with a keyboard and mouse. There are people who play video games regularly and know what they are called. These people would call Kentucky Route Zero an adventure game. You move your character across small spaces to converse with other characters you meet. In dialogue, you make choices of little consequence. The story does not much change if you name your dog Blue or Homer or don't name them at all. It does not matter. Adventure games are typically built on puzzles. Kentucky Route Zero is not built on puzzles.
A puzzle is something that you could solve if only you had all the information, right? And a mystery is something, a mystery is more like a situation where you have too much information, you don't know what's relevant, and in fact you have no guarantee that any of it is relevant, and you have no guarantee that a solution exists to the problem at all.
Kentucky Route Zero is a mystery in the exact way that the developers have defined it here. Not in the sense that we are familiar with, or in the sense that we would be more comfortable with, but in the exact way that they have defined it here. Kentucky Route Zero is not interested in locks and keys, be they literal or figurative, narrative or metatextual. It submerges the player in a flowing river of goals, characters, flashbacks, flash forwards, perspective shifts, new characters, old characters, dialogue, narration, insights, and non sequiturs. You are not meant to know what is useful and what is not. While you cannot know, you can have a perspective. The point of Kentucky Route Zero is to arrive at that perspective. When you are forming that perspective, you are playing the game. When you are waiting for the game to tell you things, you are not. I reached the ending of Kentucky Route Zero yesterday. In this review, I am still playing the game. Kentucky Route Zero was made by a development studio called Cardboard Computer. Cardboard Computer have never shipped a game before. The studio is made up of 3 people: Jake Elliott, Tomas Comenci, and Ben Babbitt. These 3 men studied art together before agreeing to make Kentucky Route Zero. They made something that must objectively be called a video game. If we were better at naming things, we would call it something else. I went to an art gallery once. There was an exhibition there from an artist named Ólafur Eliasson. At one point, I had to walk through a room filled with coloured fog.
Because we aren't better at naming things, we might say that Kentucky Route Zero is an art exhibition masquerading as a video game. It has various installations. They sit separate from one another, partitioned by acts. They may be connected by a theme, idea, or even a narrative, but the only truly shared connection is the space in which they exist and authorship. Kentucky Route Zero knows what it is. It frames itself as it wants us to interpret it. We visit museums and look at installations. Voices from the future comment that we are visiting museums and we are looking at the installations. We sit and observe television art. Hidden observers talk to each other about how we are responding to the television art. Television art. I went to an art gallery once. There was an exhibition from an artist named Namjoon Paik. It explored how television and electronics could be used to create art and to be art. Televisions would sit amidst gardens. Images on televisions could be warped by electromagnetism.
Tempestuous, strong, sometimes wrong, sometimes right.
One of Kentucky Route Zero's creators, Jake Elliott, once built an installation called the Mega Matrix Mixer Mountain. It was a 20-foot tower of disused electronics connected through a single mixer to provide a 2-hour audio-visual performance to viewers who stood around it in a circle. Kentucky Route Zero is obsessed with the television. Television is the one true American canvas. Americana can be the truck stop, the hot dog, the jukebox, the open road, but only the television can display all of these things. Television is the window into the American experience. If we were better at naming things, we might call Kentucky Route Zero a theatre production masquerading as a video game. Kentucky Route Zero is designed within the discipline of scenography, which is defined as the design and painting of theatrical scenery. Kentucky Route Zero does not have levels, it has sets. Kentucky Route Zero does not have striking cinematic action, it has scene changes. Its characters scarcely move more quickly than a shuffle. The world moves because the characters cannot. Kentucky Route Zero is inspired by American tragedy, and the greatest American tragedy is debt. At the end of Death of a Salesman by Arthur Miller, Willie Loman kills himself to cash out on his life insurance policy. Standing over his grave, his wife informs her deceased husband that she has just made the last payment on their house that day. They were free. Kentucky Route Zero is many things. One of those things is a comment on the pain of the modern American experience. Capitalism is presented as the cause. Debt is the symptom. Indentured servitude is the inevitable prognosis. The starting character has one delivery left to make. He is nearly free of the machine. He need only reach his destination and it's done. Kentucky Route Zero is an American tragedy. Since this is a visual medium, Kentucky Route Zero asks to be watched. Each scene utilizes perspective, lighting, movement, color, and architecture to create uniqueness. No two scenes in Kentucky Route Zero look similar. They used to sell screensavers for money. A company called Berkeley Systems made a program called After Dark, which was a collection of screensavers printed onto a CD-ROM, and you'd purchase it. In 1994, Jefferson Airplanes sued Berkeley Systems, claiming that the Winged Toaster's screensaver stole from their album art. The case was dismissed. In early 2000, after several mergers and acquisitions, Berkeley Systems was folded into an LA-based gambling website called iWin.com. Kentucky Route Zero is an American tragedy. Since this is an auditory medium, Kentucky Route Zero asks to be heard. Kentucky Route Zero is designed by a man who makes sounds like these in his spare time. Kentucky Route Zero is determined to focus you upon these sounds as you visit each installation and watch each scene unfold. Kentucky Route Zero is comfortable with these sounds, even if you are not.
But the bells aren't metal bells, they're ceramic bells, they're kind of bells like memory.
I remember my birthday at the party at McDonald's in Hawaii.
Kentucky Route Zero has a two-toned soundtrack. One of those is the ambient synthwave that is designed to fill sound space. If Vangelis wrote music in a truck stop diner, it would sound like this. The other tone is American folk music. Kentucky Route Zero is comfortable in silence. It sometimes chooses to fill that silence with synthwave. Sometimes it chooses to pierce that silence with gospel-inspired song. Since this is an interactive medium, we might say that Kentucky Route Zero asks to be played, but played is not a good word. There is no play to be had in Kentucky Route Zero. The process of controlling it is like viewing the sky through a telescope. The stars above will spin of their own accord. You are just there to observe them as a rather incidental part of the process. You may touch the telescope, perhaps zoom in on something specific, adjust the lens this way and that to bring things into sharper relief. You sit quietly and observe it for a time, and then it's gone. Kentucky Route Zero is about what's real. There's a scene that runs for over 30 minutes set in a bar which is set in a theatre. The actors discuss their insecurities, infidelity, their drinking, their work, their hopes, their hopelessness, their debt. One of them lies about going on vacation. Another prods him about that lie to hurt him. He doesn't want to be lying about his vacation, and she doesn't want to be hurting him. They're all just prisoners of their pain, doing what they can to feel something real. Kentucky Route Zero is about the fantastic. A young boy you meet wears a suit. His big brother is a giant eagle. Every night the eagle moves all the houses from the museum to the forest because residents can't get any sleep in the museum. There's a robot singer named Junebug who begs you to go to her performance so that there will be someone to watch. In the Hall of the Mountain King, an artificial intelligence paradise briefly blossomed because the mold growing on the circuitry created the perfect neural network. But the mold died, and so the machine is now a shadow of its former self. There is a concept called artware. It's a discussion about the relationship between art and technology, particularly software. It reflects on the constraints and liberations that technology and software impose on artists. The Snowdrop Engine from Massive Entertainment was used to make The Division. The engine was extremely flexible and powerful, allowing developers to make stunning environments in record time. However, the engine had no capacity for the creation of uneven ground space that was traversable by players. Organic locations such as parks which had rocks and rolling hills could not be utilized because they were not compatible with the game engine. Central Park was never made accessible to players in The Division. Kentucky Route Zero's co-creator Jake Elliott wrote a browser-based program that would pull words from Amazon Mechanical Turk and then put them together based on rules to form prose. Sometimes it's nonsense, sometimes it's beautiful. Either way, it doesn't matter. There's a scene in Kentucky Route Zero where the player must enter a password into a computer. The password is a poem. You choose from phrases to create that poem. Perhaps it will be nonsense. Perhaps it will be beautiful. Either way, it doesn't matter. Kentucky Route Zero is a very boring video game. It controls rather poorly. Its spaces are not designed to be easily navigated. Its dialogue options do not impact the outcomes. Its narrative is confused and lacks a satisfying resolution. It's unfocused in its dialogue. No one could remain attentive throughout every minute of its 10-hour playtime. There is simply too much and too little at the same time. Kentucky Route Zero is an extraordinary experience. I've never seen anything like this, and this is confusing to me because its acts have been eked out over the last 7 years. There was enough time for other people to copy this, or at least copy its components. No one has, and I don't understand why that is. Kentucky Route Zero must objectively be called a video game, but if we were better at naming things, we would call it something else. Thank you for watching the video. As I was researching it, I came upon an old website promoting an artware convention. This is how websites used to look back in the olden days. Thankfully, websites today are a lot better and easier to create thanks to things like Squarespace. Squarespace is an online website creation platform that lets you set up professional-looking websites in as little as a few minutes. You can add calendars, allowing you to schedule events with your community. You can integrate shopping features so you can set up your own online business. And you can track everything using Squarespace's detailed analytics tools so you can track how fast your website is growing. To get started, visit squarespace.com, and when you're ready to make things official, visit squarespace.com/skillup to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. Thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it.